Hello, this is Sam, and I'm coming with an option where you can use some of the older subjects of math that you may have learned, but you didn't realize you can actually build upon it. I love this one concept because you never know how much you really do have when you're learning math, especially in the arithmetic. One of my favorite high school professors told me that math is like a spiral staircase. It simply just adds upon itself. So as you start down here with simple addition, subtraction, you begin to learn more and more, and you build upon it when you go into algebra, trigonometry, and the higher level mathematics such as calculus and maybe even number theory. So today we're going to look at the order of operations. And many of you may have learned it by a specific set of letters stating, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," or Sasquatch. It depends on who taught it to you and how much sense of humor they had. And each of the letters of that acronym stand for an operation, and it shows you how to do things in the specific order so that you can do your work correctly. But we're actually going to show you something that you may know or may have not known. It's going to be in the reverse order when you want to isolate a variable in algebra. So let's get ready. All right, so we have that acronym written on the board here. The first letter, P, parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Now, as we stated before, when you learned the order of operations, it simply told you to go in one direction when you're trying to simplify. As in the example problem that we have, we're going to go in this direction. So the first thing that we're going to do is solve or simplify the expression within the parentheses. Simply 2 plus 4, which will give you 6, and we're just going to continue to go through this because we want to get to the point where we're going to isolate and actually use our order of operations in the reverse direction. So we simplified 2 plus 4, we have 6, so we've done the parentheses. Now the next item is the exponent, so we raise 6 to the second power to get 36. And then now the next step is multiplication or division. Now if you've had multiplication and division within the same problem, you just simply work from left to right, just the same way as you read a book. So we do 3 times 36, and we'll have 108. And finally, minus 5. We're down to the subtraction. So this is the traditional way of using your order of operations. But now let's replace that number 2 with an x as we get into algebra and we're taught how to isolate a variable. So now we have an equation where we have an equal sign. Anytime you're looking to isolate a variable, there needs to be an equal sign. So let's go through the order of operations as we said before in reverse so that we can isolate our variable. So we ask ourselves some questions. Again, going in reverse, we start down here. Is anything added to or subtracted from my variable? Now this is key. We look at the variable x and it has a plus 4, but that is within the parentheses, which is at the top, so we're not looking at that. So outside of the parentheses, we're asking, is anything added to or subtracted from our variable? Yes, we have minus 5. And I'm laughing because the next thing I'm thinking about is another teacher, a colleague of mine that I was introduced to some years ago, called what I'm about to do the do-do rule. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Do-do rule. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. So now in adding 5 to both sides, this 5 is gone, and then we get 192 on the other side. And as you may see, I continually rewrite the problem, so it's just good bookkeeping. It keeps track of all of the work that we do so we don't get sidetracked. The next thing, we ask if there's no more addition or subtraction, anything added to or subtracted from our variable. Now we go to multiplication division. Is anything multiplied to or divided into my variable? Well, we see the 3, on the outside of the parentheses. Therefore, we're going to divide by 3 on both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Do rule. Okay? These 3's are just going to be 1, 3 divided by 3. 3 into 192 is actually going to be 64. I wanted to make sure the numbers agreed, so it's a good problem. All right. Next thing is exponents. So you have to do the opposite. And let's go back. When we were saying about the addition subtraction, since we had subtraction up here, we had to use addition to take away the -5. When we had multiplication here on the second step, we had to use division to get rid of that 3. So now since we have this expression here raised to the second power, we have to use the opposite of being raised to the second power, which is actually the square root. So now we'll take the square root of both sides. And when taking the square root, you can get a positive or negative answer. So now, raised to the second power, that's gone, and you're just left with the expression x plus 4. But as we said, you get positive or negative, and you do the square root. So you get plus or minus 8. Now, we're inside the parentheses, so you just subtract 4. So to simplify, we're going to make it into 2 separate expressions. So we're going to have x plus 4 is equal to 8, and then we're also going to have x plus 4 is equal to negative 8. So now we have our 2 separate equations, and we have x plus 4 is equal to 8, and then we have x plus 4 is equal to negative 8. So we'll just subtract 4 on both sides. We're dealing with one at a time. So with the first one, we subtract 4 on both sides. We end up with 8 minus 4, which is 4 for our first answer. And now over to this equation, x plus 4 is equal to negative 8. We'll subtract 4 again from both sides. And then we'll have minus 8 minus 4, which is actually negative 12. Here, we've used our order of operations to isolate a variable, and we did it in the reverse direction. So to recap, going in this direction, you use the order of operations to simplify your problems. And in the opposite direction, going from the bottom to the top, asking those important questions, what's being done to my variable, that is what's called isolating your variable. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and we look forward to the next opportunity we can share some of the knowledge that we've gained over the years. Take care, and God bless.